Welcome back to the Still Point Podcast. Today, I want to talk about something simple but powerful. It wasn't a milestone or a big life event. It was just me carrying my son upstairs for a nap. And it hit me. The way he went completely limp in my arms, being totally vulnerable, he was fully trusting me to hold him and to get him where he needed to go, that was very powerful for me. Because that's what parenting really is. It's about creating a space where our kids feel so safe that they can just be. They can be goofy, they can be emotional, they can be completely unguarded, and they know, without even thinking about it, that we got them. That moment made me reflect on a lot. On things like trust, vulnerability, and on how we can carry our kids in ways that go just beyond physically picking them up. And as I sat with that, I realized how much this ties into things that I already live by. Stoicism, Jiu Jitsu, and just the everyday philosophy of showing up and being present as a father. So today, we're going to break that down. We'll talk about what it really means to build trust as a parent, how vulnerability is actually a sign of strength, and how, believe it or not, if you train Jiu Jitsu, or even if you just pay attention to the philosophy behind it, it'll actually make you a better parent. Let's get into it. Let's go back to that moment. My son, completely limp in my arms, just trusting me without a second thought. That's trust in its purest form. But that type of trust isn't just automatic, it's built. Psychologists talk about this in attachment theory. John Bowlby laid the foundation for the idea that kids develop security based on how their caregivers respond to their needs. If they know, on a deep instinctual level, that their parent is reliable, steady, and safe, they carry that confidence into every aspect of their life. You see this play out in all kinds of ways. Why do kids act up more at home than anywhere else? Because they feel safe enough to let their guard down. Why do they act completely different around their parents than they do around teachers, coaches, or strangers? Because with us, they don't have to perform. They don't have to earn love. They don't have to watch their back. But here's the thing. That trust doesn't just come from one big grand gesture. It's built in the small moments. It's in how we react when they mess up. It's in whether or not we keep our word. It's in how we handle their big emotions. Every time they reach for us and we're there, that trust deepens. And every time they reach for us and we aren't, whether emotionally or physically, that trust takes a hit. So when my son fell asleep like that, it wasn't just him being tired. It was a reflection of something bigger. It was years of him learning that when he's with me, he doesn't have to hold himself up. That's something we as parents need to remember. Our kids don't just need us to provide. They need us to be a steady presence. That's what builds deep, lifelong trust. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about vulnerability. Because that's really what this moment was. Pure, unguarded vulnerability. And in a lot of ways, that goes against what society teaches us, especially as men. But here's the thing. Stoicism actually aligns perfectly with the idea that real strength comes from being able to let go. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." And that's what kids do. They accept. They don't guard themselves against the world, not yet. They love us with their whole hearts, and they trust us in a way that as adults we almost forget how to do that. And part of our job as parents isn't just to protect that, it's to learn from it. Because if you really think about it, vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually the deepest kind of strength. It takes courage to trust, and it takes courage to be open and to be unguarded. We can't control our kids. And here's where Stoicism ties in even deeper. We can only control ourselves. Epictetus said some things are up to us and some things are not. This is a big one for fathers, for parents in general. We want to control everything, our kids' safety, their choices, their success. But our role isn't to control them. Our role is to provide a space where they can grow into who they're meant to be. And that's what resilience really looks like. Not being hardened, but being secure enough to not need to be hardened. And as we do in this podcast, I want to tie it to Jiu Jitsu for a second. Because if you train, you probably already know where I'm going with this. Jiu Jitsu isn't just about fighting. It's about problem solving under pressure. One of the biggest lessons is this: you have to learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And isn't that parenting? When your kid is throwing a tantrum, when they're pushing boundaries, when they're going through something tough, you have two choices. You can panic, get emotional, and react in a way that makes things worse. Or you can breathe, stay present, and handle it with patience. That's why I gotta give a quick shout out to all the dads who train. If you're in the gym, rolling, getting smashed, learning patience, learning to stay calm in chaos, just know that all of that translates directly into how you show up for your kids. And if you don't train, maybe it's time to start. Now, I also want to acknowledge something important. Some dads out there didn't have this growing up. Maybe you didn't have a father that carried you upstairs when you were a kid. Maybe trust wasn't something you learned firsthand. But here's the thing. You can still build it. You don't have to repeat the cycle. Every time you show up, even when it's hard, you're breaking patterns. You're giving your kid what you never had. And that's some of the most meaningful work a man can do. That moment of carrying my son upstairs, it wasn't just about the nap. It was about everything leading up to it. The years of trust, the small moments of showing up, the silent understanding that when he's with me, he can let go. That's the kind of thing that shapes who our kids become. Not the big lessons, not the lectures, but the way we carry them. Physically when they're little, emotionally as they grow. So if you're a parent, if you're out here trying to raise kids in a way that actually matters, keep showing up. Keep being that safe space. Because one day, they won't need us to carry them anymore. And when that day comes, we want to make sure we've given them something solid to stand on. That's it for today. If this resonated, share it, pass it along, and I'll catch you next time.